Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Miraj Periwal. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at eFolder, and I'm going to be your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Expert Series. This webinar series brings together experts from eFolder staff and partner community for deep dive discussions on key service and technical topics. Today is all about effective PR and social media marketing on a shoestring budget. Today we're joined by Taylor Michelacci, PR Associate at eFolder, and Shad Stallions, Community Manager at eFolder. Now before we go into today's agenda, I'm going to cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be made available on eFolder's YouTube channel, and we will also make copies of the slides available to those who registered for today's event. With over 200 people registered for today's session, we've put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it on your computer or by dialing it over the phone. Hopefully you've done one of those and you can hear my voice right now. Now, questions are strongly encouraged throughout the webinar. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's session, but we will try to take questions as we go along. Now let's talk about what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to introduce our two experts, Shad and Taylor, and then we're going to talk about what are PR and social media. What are the definitions of them and why are they so important? Then we're going to go into how can MSPs benefit from putting PR and social media practices and strategies in place. We're going to again go over some best practices when it comes to social media and PR. And then we're going to talk about how not only PR and social media can be used individually, but how combining them and using them in conjunction can be a really powerful way to create an innovative marketing strategy. Then we're going to go over how MSP can get started with PR and social media, and finally close off by taking your questions. So now let me go ahead and introduce our first guest, which is my colleague, Shad Stallions. Shad is a community manager here at eFolder. He's responsible for the voice of the partner and voice of customer initiatives, including organic social media engagement and growth. During Shad's marketing career, he has helped build and restructure a number of social media programs, focusing on interactive campaigns and driving organic growth, including for large B2C brands like Whole Foods Market. Shad has a BS in business from San Francisco State University, and we're really glad to have him today. Shad, thank you for joining us, and welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Niraj. It's great to be here.
Awesome. And next, I'd like to introduce Taylor Michelacci, our PR associate. Taylor heads up the PR department here at eFolder, which consists of her. Taylor comes from over 7 years of background in public relations, having worked both in-house and on the agency side. Much of Taylor's experience is in the fashion and lifestyle world, where she helped organize large-scale events, but she has also worked with technology clients while on the agency side, like TaskRabbit. Taylor recently secured eFolder in USA Today, and she looks forward to teaching and educating MSPs on ways to build out their PR programs and strategies. Taylor is originally from Princeton, New Jersey, and graduated from Bucknell University with a degree in Spanish and English. Following her college graduation, Taylor moved to New York City, settling in Brooklyn, before eventually making her way out here to San Francisco. Taylor, thank you so much for being here, and welcome.
Thanks, Niraj. I'm really excited.
Awesome. So, Shad, I'll let you kind of take it away and share everything that the audience needs to know about PR and social media.
Great. Thanks so much, Niraj. So to get started, let's talk briefly about the types of exposure that's available to your company. Some of the types are advertising, organic coverage, and that's what Taylor will cover when we get into PR a little bit. Social media platforms, blogging, speaking engagements, industry events, and newsletters and emails. These are all things that are great ways to interact with your clients and your potential client base, as well as your colleagues and your peer groups. All right, so let's get started with social media marketing for MSPs and how it's relevant. So first, what is social media? It's hard to be ignorant of the existence of social media in our personal lives. On a personal level, we use social media to share photos, personal updates, random thoughts, and memes. As a business, it's important to recognize where there are similarities as well as differences. For businesses, the key thing to think about is your brand and your voice. Positioning yourself thoughtfully opens the door to two-way conversation with your audience. And furthermore, you can build trust with your clients through social media by personalizing your business, which helps establish a deeper connection. Great. So how does social media apply to MSPs? HubSpot is an inbound marketing software company, and they've surveyed 998 SMB owners in the US and Canada. And these are some of the key takeaways from that survey. 94% of SMBs who use social media use it for marketing. 49% of SMBs use social media for learning from peers and industry experts. 3 in 4 SMBs believe LinkedIn helps build credibility, and 2 in 3 SMBs say LinkedIn gives them the opportunity to connect with vendors and other partners. So as SMBs are readily using social media, there's a huge opportunity to connect and grow your base there. So platforms that MSPs should use. These are the big 3 for MSPs with 1 extra for a little bit of company culture. So LinkedIn touts nearly 400 million users. Facebook has over 1 billion users. Twitter, just over 300 million users. And Instagram has 300 million users log in every month. All of these platforms have different purposes in social media, from developing relationships and showing expertise to highlighting your company culture. On the right is a tweet from Vala Ashfar, Chief Digital Evangelist from Salesforce. Your culture is your brand. With that in mind, as an MSP, it's important to remember that developing a brand identity helps set you apart for social media. And social media is one path that can help you solidify your brand. All right, so this is LinkedIn. I'm sure that most of you have already used LinkedIn at some point, maybe in your professional career, and used it to personally connect with your vendors, your peers, your colleagues. But it's beyond that. So LinkedIn is a professional network best for building direct relationships, and it's highly visible. This is great for headhunting on both the client and the employee side. And I think far too often people don't think of it as an opportunity to prospect. It's got some great search functionality and capability that you can really dive deep into your local areas and find potential clients that might be in a particular vertical. So if you're in the healthcare vertical and you're looking for doctor's offices or dentists, you can really dive deep and find them specifically in your metro, which is a really helpful tool that is pretty specific to LinkedIn compared to the other platforms. Facebook is great for engaging with your community. More and more, many people are going to come to find your business on Facebook. So whether or not you're already there, they may be searching for you here. So this is also great for finding thought leadership from other MSPs and those in the IT community. The challenge with Facebook is exposure can be difficult. So Facebook is notorious for its algorithms. So know that as you own a business page on Facebook, that you're really going to have to get creative in how you get that message out there. So it's one of the drawbacks to Facebook, to be sure. So Twitter, this is great for finding, sharing thought leadership. Clients may be inclined to engage with you here when things aren't working or they're having trouble getting a hold of someone. Oftentimes we hear a lot of stories of large companies that, somebody tried to call the customer service line and they sat on hold forever. And more and more customers are turning to Twitter to try to reach somebody more quickly or have somebody answer their problems. So think of Twitter as an opportunity to really engage with that client base, especially when things aren't going well. The great thing about Twitter, too, is when you're responding to those problems and those issues, there's a lot of visibility in that. So maybe customers who are curious how responsive you are, they have a lot of visibility in that. So it's important to make sure that you are taking the time to get back to people that are addressing issues on Twitter. And finally, Instagram. So like I said, Instagram may not be the best for growing your business, but what it does is it helps you grow credibility and it helps establish your culture. So it gives the opportunity for a lot of other clients or even your employees to see kind of the type of company that you are and really build that engagement that way. Remember what Vala Ashvar said, your culture is your brand, and so putting it out there that you have a strong employee culture is going to help clients that are looking to establish a relationship with you know that they have a trustworthy company that really values their employees, and those employees are going to pay you back tenfold. We already know that.
And that's a great point, Shad. And one thing I quickly want to interject is, if you have questions about what Shad is talking about with social media or anything else, please put them in the question log, and we'll try to get to them either during the slides or during our question and answer portion.
Great. So one other area that you might not think about but is really important to keep an eye out for is our platforms like Yelp and Angie's List. So keep an eye out for what's being said about you. Think of these as more interactive yellow pages. Whether or not you think that your customers are using Yelp, this is a platform where anyone can say anything about your business. And as a local business, it's important to make sure that you keep tabs on any conversations about your business. More and more, when people are searching whether they're going to Facebook or Google or Yelp, there's a lot of opportunities for customers to give that feedback, and so you want to make sure that you're owning that feedback and addressing that feedback in a timely manner, because it's going to help build your business in the long run. So there are other platforms out there. More and more social platforms show up every day, each with a particular niche. While it's important for you to focus some of your marketing efforts on social media, it's also important to make sure that you're wisely investing your time into the right platforms. Here's a couple that you probably should avoid. So Foursquare is largely a geotagging platform for your daily activities. It's not really going to help you build any business there. Pinterest is great for hobbyists looking to improve skills or find areas around specific interests, such as cooking, design, and architecture. There might be a lot of technology sort of information on Pinterest, but it's really not going to help you build business, at least not in its current state. Snapchat lets you send pictures or video with limited viewing access. Again, probably not the best for building deeper relationships with your audience. Google Plus, oh, Google, they keep trying. At the moment, it's not really, there's just not enough of a user base currently that's using it regularly to really engage with your clients. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep tabs on it and, just keep an eye out for opportunities, but at the moment, it's definitely not part of the big three or big four there. And Tinder, well, unless you're looking for an SMB owner that might be also good on a date, probably swipe left or pass on Tinder.
Great point. Here's one question from Chris. He's asking, what about the emergence of live streaming in 2015? Periscope has really grown and kind of emerged as an in-the-moment platform. And you mentioned Snapchat, and Snapchat also lets you kind of give a behind-the-scenes look at your company. So how would you advise MSPs to think about things like Periscope and Snapchat?
Periscope, that's a great point. Periscope is definitely a growing platform, and it's really about finding the right audience. So, what we're focusing on today is really
All right. I hope everyone can hear me. If you could please let me know in the question box if you can hear me. That would be much appreciated. Okay, great. Looks like people can hear. So sorry about that little technical issue. But Shad, why don't you go ahead and talk more about social media strategies for MSPs?
Yep, sure. So just to make sure that everyone heard the comment on Periscope, I'll just briefly say, today we're focusing on where MSPs with limited time should focus their limited time and their investment on social media. And Periscope, at the moment, unless you have something really great out there, I'd say it's probably a secondary platform. If you have the time for it, absolutely. Otherwise, definitely focus on those that are going to bring you the most value. All right, so how MSPs can benefit from social media. We've talked about some of these, but you can build relationships. This is especially great on platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook, where you can dive a little bit deeper. You can show transparency and communication. Again, this is things like Twitter and Yelp and Angie's List, and really responding to negative feedback as well as praise. You can position yourself as a thought leader. You can shape the perception of your business, and you can really access analytics. So each of these platforms offers analytics, with the exception of Instagram. Analytics allows you to see who is following you, who is engaging, how well your messages are being received. All of these insights can help you adjust the tone of your message and post based on what's performing well. And if you're really interested in analytics for Instagram, we do use Iconosquare, but again, that's probably not going to tell you as much as some of the analytics for platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So social media best practices. Again, we're talking about MSPs with limited time, so save links to interesting articles in a spreadsheet. I'm sure that you're reading plenty of things, trade and industry news. How it's going to affect your business. If there's something thought-provoking out there, save it in a spreadsheet, and this will allow you to come back to it and share it, once or multiple times over the course of a year, especially as it becomes relevant with different news spikes. Use a schedule content ahead of time using tools like Hootsuite. This is going to save you a ton of time. It's going to allow you to post links or photos on multiple platforms without having to go into each platform individually and scheduling ahead. So you can just dump the link or whatever you're trying to share and schedule that content ahead of time. And focus the conversation around specific and relevant topics. So you really want to make sure that, if you're focusing on disaster recovery, really build the conversation around that for a week or two. Don't drop one thing about disaster recovery and then not mention it for another 2 or 3 weeks. Really that news that you're getting about disaster recovery, and then offer your solutions as an accompanying topic. And finally, monitor employee engagement to make sure it's appropriate. So especially as an MSP with techs out in the field, you want to make sure that if your business is being tagged or mentioned on social media, that it's really keeping yourself in a positive light. You don't want sort of information out there that puts you in a negative light that might influence how a customer thinks or feels about you. So these are all things that you want to keep in mind as you move forward with social media. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass this off to Taylor to talk about public relations and how it relates to MSPs.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shad. There was a lot of insight into social media, so hopefully, there are a lot of takeaways, on the audience end. So let's get started with, what is the most basic question of what is public relations? Public relations really is all about relationships. It can be largely defined as a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. So you can think about public relations as how you are portraying your company or an individual to the public. So it's very similar to advertising, and the best part about it is that it's free. So, for this reason, it does require a bit of a different kind of creativity because you aren't paying for something, and that's really where the value lies. So the advantage to good PR is that you create more longevity than you would, say, in advertising, because a great article...
I'm sorry, Taylor. Some people are reporting that they can't hear anything. If anyone can hear us, please let me know in the question box. Otherwise, We'll try to dial in again. Okay, great. So people can say, I can hear you. Sorry, Taylor. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So just what I was saying before is the advantage to good PR is that you create more longevity than you would, in advertising, because a great feature article about your company will definitely be remembered over an advertisement that you did over a year ago or whenever it was. It really connects with people. So, in this way, you establish your company as a leader in the industry and one of interest because, once third parties such as newspapers or online publications are talking about you, you know that it's a good thing. So it's better to be talked about and just, mentioned in an organic way. Which, then will bring me to how can you benefit from PR? So now that we know what public relations is, let's get into, some benefits of this. So it's really all about building a solid foundation, which will naturally lead you to more opportunities. And this begins with building credibility and positioning your business as a trusted thought leader within your industry. Once your company is viewed as one to be trusted and knowledgeable about the market space, you're definitely in a good position. And as a result, you'll be seen as an expert in your field. And ways that you can become an expert, it can be really, it's all about knowing about your business, your industry, and explain to customers why they should be interested in what you do. So by becoming a source of knowledge, you're continuing to build that trust and also a level of comfort that businesses are really after. Another way to become an expert is to engage in speaking opportunities with local business groups and organizations. So, the more opportunities you have to spread the word about your company, the better. And lastly, participating in local events will really help you to connect within the community you are trying to serve. It's important that you get a lay of the land and understand the landscape in which you live, and not only from a business perspective, but also from a personal aspect as well. Another good benefit of PR is that you'll create buzz and you'll draw attention to your company. Again, it's important that you're being talked about and you're not the one starting the conversation. Good buzz and attention will improve your SEO, which for those of you if you don't know what that is, it's called search engine optimization, because as you begin to get coverage, more than just your website will come up if I was, to say Google your company, which is really a great thing. So the overall message here is that developing a lucrative PR strategy truly will grow your business. And now we can get into more opportunities and strategies behind this. It's important to understand the types of opportunities that are out there, but also an understanding of how you can effectively tackle them. So a good place to start is to understand, what really makes something newsworthy? Why should someone write about your company or your product or a partnership that you recently launched? To fully understand this, think about things that are interesting, that you're interested in reading about, and why. Why was it a good topic of interest? Was it creative? Was the title of the article interesting and made you click on it? Either way, you wanted to read it because it somehow applied to your life, right? So pay attention to what's happening in the news and not just all things tech. Broader news stories, like, for example, those of you on the West Coast are familiar with El Nino and the weather patterns that are headed our way, which could potentially lead to flooding, and as a result, businesses could be affected. So if you're a company like eFolder that specializes in BDR and business continuity solutions, something like this could be the perfect opportunity to pitch a story about how to prepare for a natural disaster from a technology standpoint. So stories like this are compelling, and they're really a creative way to remain relevant yet informative about your company. Another way to create a PR opportunity is to focus on customer success stories and or case studies. The media is really interested in how your product works and what problem it's solving directly from the people who are actually using it. It's much less authentic to hear about a product from the vendor who is supplying it, because then it really sounds like an advertisement, and honestly that's not what reporters are looking for. They want a story, not a tagline. So another way to be involved in PR that I've listed here is to submit contributor articles. There are online publications like Virtual Strategy Magazine that I've listed here and Business Solutions Magazine, which will accept articles that you write. And this can come in a variety of formats, such as interview style, where you're asking a question and you're having someone in your company answer it, or opinion pieces or articles about current technology trends that are very editorial, and something that you would read on a tech site. So by creating your own content, you're actually the one in control, and you're in control of the information of getting out about your company to the public. So it's actually a nice way to kind of, like I said, control this if you don't want to give someone the creative freedom. But you're also creating internal content that from here can also be repurposed into other PR and social media activity, which we'll get into later. But it also makes you think in a different way and challenges you to be creative. So this too can help you become an expert in your field. So now we can get into some different PR services and tools that you can implement. So here I have press releases. Now, what is a press release, right? So for those of you who are unfamiliar, press releases are written with the purpose of making an announcement about various company happenings or news, such as partnerships, product launches, partner success stories. The desired result of a press release is really to garner attention and let the public know what your company is doing. Also, obviously with the hope that you'll get attention of relevant media outlets for potential coverage opportunities. So press releases, they also build credibility because the more that people see your business's name out there, the more apt they are to remember who you are and what you're doing. So press releases can be distributed via wire services such as PR Web, Business Wire is a great one, or PR Newswire, and these are all paid services that will distribute your press release to a targeted audience and press outlets. So when you hear somebody refer to putting something on the wire, this is what they're talking about. So services like this are great because you have the ability to distribute your news to certain locations. So for instance, if you have clients all over the Northeast, you're able to distribute your release to those specific areas. You're also able to send these out to specific outlets by category. So you can send to only technology publications or business and finance if you work with a lot of financial clients and so forth. So, if you don't want to pay for something, there's also a more cost-effective way to do this, and that's through free wire service distribution. So there's a lot of websites that you can use, and a couple of them are tmc.net, prlog.org, bignews.biz, and there's a few others as well, but if you're interested, definitely feel free to shoot us an email. And then also here I listed HARO, which stands for Help a Reporter Out, which is a direct way to connect with journalists, and it's free. So HARO is a place where journalists, reporters, and editors will post stories they're working on that they need help with. So if you subscribe to this site, you can get up to 3 emails a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. And there's also an option to receive less if you want to. But and they break it down by category. So when you get the email, there's separate sections for business, finance stories, technology stories, lifestyle stories. Each opportunity will list the topic of interest, and it also actually puts the requirements that the reporter is asking for. So some might be, technology experts only, or no vendor submissions, or whatever it might be. So HARO is a great way to get an insider's look at how reporters like to have information presented to them, as well as what people are actually writing about, right? So it also could spark ideas for you in different areas, like if you see a topic there that you might not be able to submit for, it could be a great blog idea. So it's another way to stay informed. And then finally, we will close here with some best PR practices. And now that you've learned what PR is and the strategy behind it, let's get into some ways that you can best practice this. So like I said, public relations is all about relationships and building a solid network of relationships. So local press within your community is definitely a great way to start. And knowledge here is power. So the more you know, the more credible you become. So being well-read in your industry is important if you're speaking with media at any time. Trust me, they are not afraid to ask you questions and will challenge you whenever they get the chance. So be sure to be positive when you're speaking with a reporter or a journalist. They will remember you. You are representing your company, and if you come off in a negative fashion, it won't be helpful, and likely the journalist probably will not reach out to you for future opportunities. And one important thing here to note is that there is no such thing as off the record. And what I mean by that is that if you're speaking to somebody and you say something that you really, you kind of didn't really want to share, and now that you're thinking about it, wasn't such a great idea, or it's not true, there is no guarantee that what you just said won't be included. So be honest, conversational, and get to your point. You want your points to come across clearly, so keep your answers short and succinct. Another way, get involved in the empathy community. Know what your peers are up to. You might think about joining a peer group to learn more about the success that other people have had and what wasn't successful. And then lastly, make sure you are tying this in with all of your social media efforts, so working closely to remain consistent in messaging across all of these platforms. You don't want to come off one way to media, but then completely different way, via social media.
Great. Thanks, Taylor. That's all really great insight into PR. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about how to use PR and social media together. It's a great segue there. So to get us started, let's address the value of social listening. I know this is something both you and I do, Taylor. So do you want to give us a little insight into how you can benefit from social listening on these 4 aspects here?
Sure. So being aware of what your competitors, your vendors, end users, and the broader marketplace is talking about and what they're interested in is extremely valuable. And it's something, if you're going to be considered an expert in your field, is crucial that you know. So knowing about what your competitors are sharing about, whether it's new products they've launched, company announcements, or an acquisition that took place, this is going to help you to identify ways you can better market your company in other areas to touch on that they might have. So it's a way to be strategic through active listening. You're taking information in and you're creating something with it that is useful. Knowing about what the biggest trends are in your industry will give you credibility, and it's really going to make you attractive to potential clients. So, now that you're listening and you're aware of the information that is already available to you, use it to help drive your PR and social media tactics that will serve as the backbone or foundation, rather, of what you're developing. So remember, a strong knowledge base and foundation is key. Important tactics here to take note of are turning PR moments into social media opportunities and vice versa. You don't have to reinvent the wheel if you don't, don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. So repurposing content is a smart way to be present across multiple platforms and leverage information you've already spent time creating. For example, if you secured coverage on a technology online publication or a blog, make sure that you're sharing this news via Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. So the more your network knows the great things you're doing, the better, right? So this leads me to my next point, which is about building brand awareness. Building awareness about who your company is and what you do, it definitely takes effort, but honestly, it's so important. You might have the right tools, but nothing to stand behind. So a solid brand comes from educating your community, your competitors, and of course your clients about what you stand for. What is your mission? And the important part here is how or why your product is important and what problem it's solving, because it's the reason you created it in the first place. So your brand message should be clearly laid out on your website, and messaging should be reflective of this, whether it's in a press release or something you're tweeting about. There are little ways you can let people know who you are and where they can find you. So for example, adding in links to your social media platforms like Twitter or Facebook in the signature of your email is a great way to do this. And then moving on, set up your Google Alerts. Google Alerts will help you keep track of your network, your vendors, competitors, distributors, and what your clients are up to. Google Alerts are free and they save your time because someone is doing the searching for you. So now all you have to do is literally just read it.
So here's a quick question from Christina, and I think it ties in nicely with the PR and social media, together aspect that we're talking about right now. And she's asking, how do you usually initiate PR activities? So how can you combine social and PR to really build that PR presence?
I think the first step with PR is figuring out who you are, what your mission statement is, and who your target audience is. Because if you don't know who you're reaching out to, and you don't have an idea of what you want to say, then you're not getting anywhere. So laying the groundwork, like we were talking about earlier, a good foundation of what that means and what that looks like, and what the end goal is the first step in what you want to do to create a sound PR strategy. And I'm sure Shad could add in on that the social aspect as well.
Yeah, similarly, you just want to make sure that you're not making noise just to make noise. That you have a targeted message with a targeted audience in mind, because otherwise there's no value to your message, right? So.
And one more question before we move on from
Sure.
Venice. Can you talk more about Google Alerts, how it works, what it does?
So Google Alerts, if you sign into your Gmail account, you can set up alerts that either go to your personal account or you can have them go to your work account, and you can add in keywords, and you can have these alerts set up for, like, if I was wanting to look up a competitor, I would type in the competitor's name and I would have that email come to me. There's different options. I think As It Happens is one of them. You can get alerts twice a day, once a day, once a week or something like that. But you'd have to go in there and look. But that's a good way to keep track of what people are doing. So anytime there's news about your competitor that you set up the alert for, it will directly send that to your inbox.
Yeah.
So you're not having to do Google searches, it's doing it for you.
Yeah. Or even your vendors. If you have a less communicative vendor, it's a really great way to find out some of the things that is going on with them. So you can stay up to date with some of their product offerings or their announcements. So you're really offering your clients top-of-the-line service as well. So we're going to move on to a few other considerations here. How do you prioritize your budget? So all of the social platforms we mentioned will give you opportunities to have ads. But the big question for many MSPs that are new to social media might be, do I pay for ads or do I not pay for ads? And you want to think of social media as a global platform with a local reach. Paying for ads creates challenges in exposing the message to the right people. And unless you're really familiar with how targeting works for these platforms, I'd recommend leaning more toward organic engagement. And what we mean when we say organic engagement is unpaid. It's really about building the conversation and targeting the right audience through engagement rather than paying to play. So now, one thing especially to consider with Facebook is the algorithms that are built are not built for B2B advertising. They're more built. They're built for B2C advertising. So it makes it a lot more challenging to advertise on Facebook. LinkedIn is definitely the way to go if you're going to advertise, especially to get started. If you want to try ads, by all means, feel free to do so. But definitely start small and learn from what's working and what's not working.
Sorry, Chad.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
Michael got saying he lost the audio. If we could get verbal or confirmation that either people can hear us or can't hear us, that would be appreciated. And we apologize for the technical difficulties we seem to be having. Okay, people can hear the audio is a little choppy, but
Okay.
seems like it's working. So go ahead, Chad.
All right. So when it comes to budget and PR, Taylor mentioned some pay-to-play services, but don't put the cart before the horse, so to speak. Work on building up your brand and your visibility and even your media exposure before paying it to further get your name or your news out there. Now, determining how much time to dedicate will largely depend on how much time you have. Using tools like Hootsuite and Buffer that we mentioned to reduce your time investment is a great way to go. Scheduling tools make sharing content across multiple platforms convenient and quick. And the more time you can dedicate, the better. Starting small is still starting, though. So don't put off starting just because you don't have time to visit it every single day. The key is to remain consistent in your exposure. So however much time it takes you to maintain consistency is important. You definitely don't want to start strong with lots of great content day after day and then go silent for days or weeks at a time. It's a really, it's a sure way to disengage your audience. And finally, remember that the more you grow, the more time it'll take. But don't let that scare you. The more practice you have, the better you'll be at your execution. Now, finally, do you need a full-time marketing staff for social and PR? No, you can do this on your own. As a savvy business owner, you're likely already paying attention to what's happening in your ecosystem. So by taking the time to inject your business into the conversation, you're simply using the knowledge and insight you already have and making it available to potential clients. So now we've given you a lot to think about. How do you get started?
So, like I was saying, we touched earlier on the importance of truly establishing your brand. So I guess I have a question for you, Shad.
Sure.
So if you were looking for an IT services company to provide you with support, like what's one of the first things that you might do, or like what would you look for?
So it's almost 2016, right? So the first thing I do is I'd Google IT services, maybe my industry. Let's say I'm a dentist, and my location. So let's say I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming. As I'm clicking through websites, I'd go looking for two things. The first thing that has the potential to stop my transaction dead in its tracks is a bad website. If I'm a dentist in Wyoming, you have to show me your expertise by having a better website than me.
So why do you think that that's important?
Well, I think of it this way. So you wouldn't go to a dentist with poor dental hygiene, right? Why? Because you trust that person as an expert. Same goes for technology, even if web development isn't specifically related to what you do. If you have a good website and I dig around further, I'm going to hope to find something valuable there. In-depth information about your services and even thought leadership that shows you're an expert in your industry.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. You know, when I'm researching outlets or publications that, for example, are attending a trade show or another industry event, and I want to see if they're suitable and legitimate for my executives to meet with, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go directly to Google and search for them. If their website's kind of funky looking, I'm definitely not going to take them seriously, and I'm certainly not going to view them as a credible news source. To expand on the idea of credibility again, it's super important that you're connecting with industry leaders or local press to get the word out about your company. These relationships, honestly, could have the potential to be quite powerful in your future. And if you have to start somewhere, you have to start somewhere in order to get the ball rolling.
Great. So finally, let's move on to the big three. So this is getting you started. Number one, register your social account. So as we mentioned before, even if your business page isn't registered, or even if you haven't set up your business page through Facebook or Yelp even, it doesn't mean that it doesn't already exist. If people have taken the time to go out there and review you, that means your page exists. So you want to make sure that you're owning that content and making sure you're owning that account so that you have the opportunity to respond. And further, you'll grow your audiences that way. Also, I haven't mentioned it before, but we want to make sure that we're talking specifically about your business pages. So these aren't your personal pages. Even on LinkedIn, make sure you're registering your business so that you can build a spot for people to come find you, find out more about your business. Having your own accounts is important too, so people can, especially on LinkedIn, get to know you a little bit better and your expertise. But we want to make sure that your business has all of these active pages. Number two, start blogging. If you haven't already started blogging, get out there and do it. It doesn't have to be very long-winded. 250 words is plenty to get you started. And if you're struggling for topics, start with your sales pitches. So, where are you an expert? If you want to talk about disaster recovery, talk about disaster recovery and why it's important that, especially in an El Nino year, your clients or potential clients are thinking about the value of their data and what it would mean without if they lost it. This is also a great opportunity to improve your SEO if you're putting out consistent topics that follow kind of what your business is built around.
So, with that, it's also about, like we've been kind of saying, start building relationships with local business press, publications, different clubs. I mean, contact the Chamber of Commerce in your area, see what's going on. Don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I mean, it's all about how you're connecting with people and how you come across to them, and then building that credibility that will certainly lead to other opportunities. So some final thoughts that we have here are, don't get frustrated. It definitely can be daunting, but really taking action, is the first step in this entire process.
Yeah, and don't expect results overnight. Don't be frustrated if you don't see something not happening tomorrow or you don't see results next week. This is something that takes fostering, and it's only going to help your brand in the long run, but it will take a little bit of time. So take the time to get it right. Enjoy the time that it takes to get there, and you'll do great things in the long run. Don't be afraid to experiment either. If you've got an idea for something on social or a PR pitch, it's not going to harm you to put it out there. And finally, don't hesitate to copy success. So if you see something one of your vendors is doing, or maybe someone in one of your IT peer groups is doing, don't be afraid to copy them. If they got great publication on something that their business is doing in one of their local papers, see if you can reach out to your local paper and get something out there for your brand as well.
Great. So thank you so much, Shad and Taylor, for providing so much valuable insight into what to do to integrate PR and social media into your overall marketing strategy. Now, before we get to our question and answer section, one thing I quickly wanted to bring up is that eFolder has actually produced a PR and social media marketing guide. And, you know, this guide really includes a lot of special assets that we think can really help you get started on building a PR and social media strategy. So as an example, this includes 5 things that every MSP should post on their Facebook page. It includes a sample press release, a press release template, so you can literally, you know, enter your company name here and create your own press release. Tips for what to do on Yelp and LinkedIn and Twitter. So we created this guidebook to really help you, you know, start the PR and social media journey and keep it going in a very strategic way. So we're going to be sending out this guidebook to everyone who is attending as a special thank you. And now let's just move on to questions from the audience. So we've got a couple of questions here from Nikia about blogging. First, she asks, if 250 words, would you consider that like a minimum for a blog, Shad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 250 words is a paragraph, maybe a paragraph and a half, but you know, it's not a bad place to start. You don't want all of your blogs to be only that long, but it's a great place to get started, to get your thoughts out there, and as you write more, the easier it'll become. Did you have anything to add, Taylor? Or?
Yeah, I think that definitely 250 words, like you're saying, is the place to begin there. And I would also say that when you're writing blogs, don't have all those 250 words in one paragraph. It's good to break up your thoughts, because if you think about it, that's kind of how people think in general. We don't think in these long paragraphs. We think in different thoughts. So separating those thoughts makes it more readable. And, you know, blogs are really an opinion piece. So getting your thoughts out there and, you know, what you think about the industry, the company, whatever it is super important.
Cool. Another question from Nikia. She says, I blog for Constant Contact, and I've been falling behind on my own company blog. Can I refer to those blogs on my own company blog? Would that be appropriate, do you think, Shad?
I think it's more about repurposing. So, you know, if there's blog content out there that you're getting, take those thoughts and restructure them so that they fit your business model. You don't want to, because that doesn't really help position you as a thought leader. Now, if you want to share those on social media in some form, then that's one way to go about it. But as far as posting those to your blog and then claiming them as your own, I would recommend kind of staying away from that.
Great. And one final question about blogging from Venice, who asks, how long is too long for a blog? And what would you consider the difference between a blog and a newsletter?
So I think a newsletter, to get started, is more updates as far as what's happening with your company. A blog it's great to think about as thought leadership. So it's your opportunity to really dive a little bit deeper than you would in a newsletter. A newsletter, I think overall, you want to keep a little bit briefer so that people can skim it, right? So you're getting your bullet points out there, and if people want to find more information, then you're giving them the opportunity to take those deeper dives. But you definitely want to keep your newsletters to kind of bulleted sections in some format. As far as length of the blog, there's definitely some different schools of thought out there. Just think about how long your attention span is and where you're making your biggest point. You don't want to make your argument for, you know, in your blog, have it be too long that people fall off before they get to your actual kind of thesis, if you will. So you want to make sure that your thoughts are laid out strong in the beginning, and then if you have a lot of information to support it, you can keep writing on it. But don't make sure, or I should say, make sure there's not a disconnect between what you're writing and what you're trying to say.
Great. We got another question just real quick about whether this is being recorded. He answered yes, we are recording it, and we will be sending out the recording, the deck, and the guidebook I mentioned earlier to everyone who is attending today. So let's see what else we've got. So Shad, earlier you mentioned Hootsuite, and Dawn is asking, how would you compare Hootsuite with Feedly? Or Feedly, sorry.
You know, honestly, I haven't used Feedly that much. I like Hootsuite. Hootsuite has a pretty robust free platform, which I think is great. One of the other things that Hootsuite offers is the add-in to Chrome, at least, where if you're on an article that you find interesting, all you have to do is click the little Hootlet plugin, and you can then post it to any of your social platforms that are linked. So if I'm reading something about file sync and I really want to share that on our Twitter, I can just click the Hootlet plugin and add in my thoughts along with the link, and I don't have to go back to Twitter and hop around between pages to get that done.
Great. Let's see. Here's another question about newsletters, and I don't know if Taylor or Shad wants to take this, but how often do you recommend MSPs release newsletters? Should it be weekly, monthly?
Yeah, at eFolder we do ours monthly. We release our extra eFolder Extra every month, and I think that that's a good cadence. I think if you're trying to do it weekly, you're going to struggle to come up with content without being repetitive. And the biggest thing that you want to avoid is annoying your clients with non-news, right? So you don't want to just create news to have news. So make sure that your cadence makes sense for your business. Now, if you have a lot going on, there's no reason why you can't produce kind of an additional addendum to your newsletter, or add that information to the blog or your social media. But yeah, I think a newsletter cadence is probably monthly.
Great. Here's a question from Christina, and I think I might be able to answer this. She asks, do you have any advice on creating a case study? We have clients who come to mind, but how do you approach them about it? Is there a website or standard form you can use? I have writing skills, but I don't know where to begin. And, I think the reason that I'm answering this is, as product marketing manager, I've done a lot of work to create client case studies for eFolder. And really, I think you'll be surprised at how willing customers are to come on and talk to you over the phone and tell you about their success. What you should really do is tell them about the opportunity for them to be featured on your website and in your collateral, and you'll find that most, if not all, are more than willing to help. Now, in terms of how should you actually do it, the way we do it, and I think it's a great model, is just call them or email them and say, hey, we're creating client case studies, and as one of our most successful clients, we'd love to feature you, and then hop on the phone with them for half an hour or maybe 45 minutes. Just let them, you'll be surprised at how much they'd love to talk, and let them talk and get everything you can down on paper, and then really shorten it and summarize it to maybe 500 to 750 words. Keep it short and concise so that people get a sense of, how your client has succeeded, but don't make it too long-winded that people lose interest before they finish. And you'll find that, often putting it in a really nice, graphical design will make it really appealing. So if you have it, lying on your desk, or you shoot it out over email or put it on your website, it's going to be aesthetically pleasing to read. So I hope I gave you a good answer to that. Here's a question from Barb, again about social media. Do you keep your topics and your themes the same on each platform, or do you change them up? So if you're, for example, if you're talking about sync, file sync on your blog, do you also mention that same thing on your website, on Facebook, and your newsletter? So do you kind of regurgitate content, or do you cycle through it on different media?
That's a really great question, and I tend to approach it a couple different ways. So It depends on the urgency of the news or the message that we're trying to get out there. So obviously with things like webinars, when we're hosting those, we want to make sure that that content hits all of our social channels at the same time or about the same time, because the turnaround time is much tighter, right? But if we're putting out thought leadership, we want to make sure that we're engaging our audience in different ways across different platforms. So we're not going to put the same article for file sync on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn at the same time. It might be in the same day. We might position the article from a different stance on each platform. But assuming that we have similar or some overlap in followers, we don't want to lose engagement on one platform or another because we're just producing the same content over and over and over again. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't use that content this week on Facebook and next week on Twitter and the following week on LinkedIn. We just want to keep the conversation fresh and engaging no matter where you find us. So same should be said for you and your clients. You want to make sure that no matter where they come to find you, you're offering them value on each platform.
Awesome. Here's a question from Van. I apologize if I missed his name. Who asked, what about brochures? What should go into them? And I'll take this because, we produce, my team produces a lot of marketing collateral content for eFolder. And brochures are a really great way to it shouldn't be like a laundry list of features of your, let's say, file sync offering or business continuity offering. It should definitely have the core features, but really it should talk about the value proposition for people who adopt that solution, like what they're going to get out of it. Definitely make sure it's not too technical, and they should really be able to pick up a brochure, flip through it in like maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and get an understanding of, okay, what is this offering, how is it going to benefit me, and how can I learn more about it further. So maybe who should I email, or what website should I go to, or who should I call. So, brochures should be concise but very informative about the value of your offering and how prospects can take the next steps. See if we've got any more. Yeah, so Shad wanted to add something. So Shad, why don't you go ahead?
We've put a lot of information out there for both social and PR, and I want to make sure that we invite you to follow us on our social channels. And you can reach out to either of us at any time with questions that you have. So you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all at eFolder. We are available. We do try to respond as quickly as possible. So I'm always available through those channels, and even if you have something for Taylor, questions on PR, we can definitely help get you directed that way. So.
Yeah, and what we'll do is in our follow-up email to everyone who registered, we'll make sure to include Shad and Taylor's emails. So if you need anything from them, feel free to reach out. So we're at the top of the hour, so I think now's a great time to kind of move on. But just want to thank everybody for attending. We hope to get a lot of valuable insight into how MSPs can use PR and social media to your advantage. I obviously want to give a big thank you to Shad and Taylor for providing such valuable expertise. I think hopefully everybody got a lot out of this, and again, we're sending out the recording and the slides, so if you want to give it another look, you're more than welcome to do that. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. This is Niraj Periwal signing off from San Francisco. Have a great rest of your weekend, and if we don't see you before Christmas, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you so much, everyone.